This is every Harry Potter game from way back in 2001 to the past few years, and my mission is to complete every single one of them. Some you'll probably know, others maybe not. Our first game came out on PC, but it's not what you think.
Coming out in 2001, months before the release of The Philosopher's Stone in theatres, this is the first ever Harry Potter video game, and after a troubling start, I was finally able to get this old title working. Coming out as a sequel to the original LEGO Creator PC game, LEGO Creator Harry Potter is a virtual LEGO sandbox based on the world of the Philosopher's Stone. Although the game took a little adjusting to. Oh my word, okay, let's not make us all motion sick. We found it incredibly nostalgic and got to see a different side to some of Harry Potter's iconic locations, long forgotten. You can see London around, that's impressive. The game features models from the real-life Harry Potter LEGO sets that came out the same year. Hello there, Hagrid, welcome to my world. A Draco Malfoy, and he's on top there. Who else have we got? What? That, oh my word! That's supposed to be me! I've never been so offended in my life. Poor Snape. The game lets us build in different areas of the wizarding world, teaching us the controls through challenges, and lets us customize our own characters and bring our own creations into the world. Though the game is clearly aimed at pre-Hogwarts children, it does include some completely unique opportunities, such as flying Snape on a broom, tormenting Hagrid, and blowing up the Gryffindor common room.
I'm afraid you can't do that.
After building our own creations, completing all the challenges, and visiting all the locations, we considered this game complete. Boom! Released a few months later, around the time of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone's theatrical release, we have 4 completely different companion games. Starting with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the Game Boy Color. I had a holiday booked, so I packed my Game Boy into my bag for something to do on the plane, but ended up playing it all week. This retro turn-based roleplay game kicks off exploring Diagon Alley, collecting Harry's school supplies, choosing his wand and visiting Gringotts before heading to Hogwarts. I had a lot of fun playing this game. There was lots more content than I expected. It follows the book so faithfully, including many parts cut from the films, such as when Scabbers bit Goyle, Snape's potions puzzle, even the elusive poltergeist Peeves and the rarely seen History of Magic teacher Professor Binns made appearances. The game requires a lot of trial and error, whether that's finding your classes like a true first year, completing your lessons or learning the best spell for each encounter. I found myself needing to grind extra levels in the turn-based combat towards the end of the game, which I personally enjoyed, as, although Quirrell was a pushover, defeating Voldemort was going to be much harder. One of my favourite observations about this game is how original it feels. Maybe because the development for this version started before any of the other games. Very early in the production of the film, it is overwhelmingly based on the book, and unlike other games and depictions of the wizarding world, it's a completely unique take without the inspiration, whether intended or accidental, of the films that changed Harry Potter forever. With a powerful combination of 2 of the game's original spells, Mucus Ad Nauseam and Flipendo Trio, the Dark Lord was defeated, but not for the last time. The next 3 versions of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone were made by different developers, but share a lot, including their wonderful score, art style and voice actors. Here we have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the PC. The game starts with a narrated storybook sequence, taking us all the way to Hogwarts to meet Dumbledore in the entrance hall. The castle looks great for its time, both inside and out, though at least in the Charms trial, Hagrid the groundskeeper is out of a job. The first part of the game is spent mostly going to lessons and learning your spells, by replicating the wand movements with your mouse, and then using those spells to complete trials. The game has its quirks, such as Draco's massive head to match his big-headed energy, and Quirrell having hair. How exactly does that? Is that Voldemort's beard? Among others. Oh dear. Oh gosh. But it has some very nice world-building moments too, such as all of the Weasley twins' dramatic entrances. And off they go as quick as they came. Their experiment. A Slytherin stuck in one of the trials and more. The game features encounters from the book and film, such as Draco stealing Neville's Remember-All, the troll in the dungeon, thought you ought to know, and of course chasing the snitch in Quidditch. But it also has a plot point unique to the book that is sneaking through the castle to deliver Norbert the Dragon to Charlie Weasley in one of his very few on-screen depictions. The game ends with the trio's journey into the Forbidden Corridor, where you must play Fluffy to sleep, burn Devil's Snare, capture the key, destroy all the chess pieces, not really how that game works, but fun, pick the right potion and finally confront Professor Quirrell after a shocking reveal.
Oh my goodness. If that isn't nightmare fuel, I'm not sure what is.
With some clever use of our environment, we defeated He Who Must Not Be Named for a second time. Next, we have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the Game Boy Advance, an adventure puzzle-solving game that's completely different from its Game Boy Color counterpart, and takes more inspiration from the upcoming film. The game starts with a slideshow of artwork based on the films and narrated by Dumbledore that takes us all the way to the sorting ceremony. Our time at Hogwarts begins and we must travel between locations in and around the castle, then use the various spells we learn on our way to beat different puzzles, thus completing our lessons and quests, and, unlike the Game Boy Color version, participate in Quidditch matches. The game has a similar feel to the PC and console versions, using the same character designs, original enemies and spells, though it shares its score with the Game Boy Color version. I found some of the levels quite tricky.
Just felt him to death.
And felt it got repetitive at times, though it was still enjoyable. A lot of the stuff was left unexplained, such as how to defeat Quirrell, though after some trial and error, I got the job done. But despite my victory over He Who Must Not Be Named, because of the house point system, and that I got caught sneaking around at night and casting spells on teachers so much, Gryffindor lost the House Cup. Justice for Slytherin at last. Next, we have the iconic Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the original PlayStation. This game starts out with the very same slideshow seen in the PC and Game Boy Advance versions. Then, just like in the PC version, we meet Dumbledore in the entrance hall, though, due to the limitations of the aging PlayStation, he's a few polygons worse off. There is charm in the low-resolution wizarding world, though at times it just looks weird.
Oh, that's just scary.
And that's before we mention the infamous PS1 Hagrid.
Oh my word, students, it's him. It's him. Oh my word.
Very different from the other games, at times it appears to have its own unique plot filled with confrontations with Peeves and Draco, saving cats and going on a mission to Diagon Alley with Hagrid halfway through the school year. And all while being stalked by a hooded figure intent on making life more difficult for you.
Oh my gosh. What the? Oh my word. Whoa, whoa, whoa!
With occasional input from Hermione telling you portions of the actual story. It's a lot. Though most of the game is spent jumping around and battling magical creatures with Flipendo, there are lots of mini-games, such as learning spells,
oh dear,
playing wizard crackers, and running away from the troll. The trip to Diagon Alley boasts more mini-games, and these ones are rough, collecting coins in a minecart being particularly stressful.
Oh no, no! Oh, I was in the right place and then I moved it! No! Oh, no! No, no, no!
And don't get me started on collecting peacock feathers. As we near the end of the game, the plot kicks back in. We first search for the injured unicorn in the Forbidden Forest, then enter the third floor corridor to complete each challenge, before taking on He Who Must Not Be Named, and using the window of Erised and whatever's going on here to defeat him and complete the game.
Square for energy. Hurt Quirrell. Square for more energy.
Right, let's move on. In 2002, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was released in cinemas, and with it came 5 different companion games. They share an amazing score composed again by Jeremy Soule, which won him a BAFTA in the game music category. The score was adapted for the handheld versions such as Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on the Game Boy Color. This game is very similar to the previous title on the Game Boy Color. It's another turn-based roleplay game using a lot of the same art, mechanics, and a familiar Hogwarts. This time we don't just play as Harry and can have Ron, Hermione, and someone else join the party. The characters merge into you once they've joined you, but appear in combat and can be controlled in a similar way to Harry, with their own special abilities. Combat has been improved from the first game, with a new fancy UI, extra spells, and so many new enemies. The game is extremely accurate to the book. We play Quidditch with the Tampered Bludger, follow the spiders into the Forbidden Forest, and sneak into the Slytherin common room while disguised as Crabbe and Goyle. style. Many of the scenes play out just as written, such as the Death Day party for Sir Nearly Headless Nick, and Lockhart's Valentine's Day party. There's some brilliant attention to detail, like Ron's wand backfiring sometimes. Characters reacting differently to you when you're disguised as the Slytherins, and Harry's fire one-liners. This time we start out at the Burrow, where we must battle Arthur Weasley's enchanted stuff, before accidentally travelling to Knockturn Alley, exploring Diagon Alley again, and then heading to Hogwarts for the main bulk of the game. As you get nearer the end of the game, the difficulty ramps up, so some grinding for levels is key, or you end up getting one-shot by Aragog like me. Soon after, we are forced to take on Professor Lockhart, which was much harder than I expected. Upon defeating him, he joins our party, and although wandless, his autographs are hilariously powerful and stun enemies. Finally, it's time to battle the Basilisk. Fawkes helps us out in combat, and we're armed with the Sword of Gryffindor. Burning through all my potions and card combo attacks, I managed to smote the Basilisk's ruin on the mountainside, and defeat that pesky Tom Riddle. Back to the original PlayStation for our next Chamber of Secrets game. This game is a direct continuation of the previous title on the PS1, borrowing many of its character models, animations, and game mechanics. After the usual storybook opening, we start off at the Burrow. What a disgusting place. Where we refresh our spellcasting knowledge with some of the returning spells. We then make the journey to Hogwarts via the new sliding minigame for Floo Powder travel and a train chase minigame. Why not just go up? The game boasts a whole array of new minigames to join those from the first title, including gnome tossing. What's a throw? Catching stuff. Oh, for goodness sake, this is house elf work. And most interestingly, dueling, where both participants try to flipendo each other but can cast special jinxes with a variety of effects. Potter, try to use Avada Kedavra on my son. How dare he? The game follows the story more tightly than the first, including moments such as crashing into the Whomping Willow, catching pixies, joining the dueling club and meeting Aragog, with only minor additions such as challenges in class and another mid-term visit to Diagon Alley, but fortunately no minecarts. And this time it's snowing. The game also briefly features Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day party and Lockhart's Valentine's Day Cupids. The climax of the story is entering the Chamber of Secrets, where we must first duel Lockhart, Avada Kedavra, then complete some filler challenges before taking on the Basilisk. The Basilisk turns out to be quite an easy adversary to overcome, just a few flipendos and deflecting back his mouth ray gun thing while avoiding the squirts of venom, and job done. Poor Basilisk to be slain by someone like Potter. A definite improvement on the first game for me. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on the Game Boy Advance follows on from the previous Game Boy Advance title, but this time with an upgraded artistic style, drawn on an angle, giving the maps more realism. The game starts out with a long intro using assets reminiscent of the other versions, and takes us all the way to Diagon Alley. After trekking through Gringotts vaults to claim our galleons and stealing some on the way, we spend some of our time learning the basics of the game. But we missed a train to Hogwarts, so must find some Floo Powder to get back to the Burrow, and Hagrid is no help at all. We then head to Hogwarts, where most of our time is spent going to classes and searching for ingredients for the Polyjuice potion. That seems to just affect our robes. And of course, Ron isn't going to come help. The game involves a lot of climbing, jumping around and avoiding obstacles, as well as combat encounters, with many familiar enemies, including trolls who, for some reason, drop bombs when they've been defeated, like a Call of Duty perk. As we learn more spells, we encounter more puzzles where they might be needed. Every once in a while, it's time for Quidditch, which is the very familiar flying through hoops minigame, though quite frustrating in this third-person 2D perspective. There's a lot to explore, Bertie Bott's beans and wizard cards to find, and great detailing around the castle. Oi, do you mind? But the game is quite short, though some of the dialogue definitely isn't. When it's time to enter the Chamber of Secrets, Gilderoy Lockhart is nowhere to be seen. We take out a few snakes, and the battle with the Basilisk commences. I found this encounter to be quite difficult, but eventually got the job done. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on the PC follows on from the previous PC title, with a familiar but updated version of the castle. The game follows the story very well. There's an introduction where we meet Dobby, then Lockhart. Great Scott, isn't that a handsome man? and then the Whomping Willow, where gameplay starts. We spend the beginning of the game going to classes like in the previous title and attending the dueling club. Surprisingly, Lockhart is quite a competent professor and teaches us multiple spells, including Mimble Wimble, the tongue-tying curse making its first appearance in canon, as well as showing us his brilliant art collection.
What beautiful, beautiful portraits these truly are, students.
Following the films quite accurately, though, interestingly, Flitwick is the character chosen to relay the legend of the Chamber of Secrets. In this version of the game, we get the chance to actually explore the Slytherin common room when using the Polyjuice, chat to Slytherins and see the Black Lake from below, something we wouldn't be able to do again for another 8 years. The game has many returning spells and enemies, including Peeves. The moving staircases feature, though you do need to keep a close eye on Ron.
Follow me, Harry.
Oh! Oh dear. It's alright, no one saw. No one saw. Alright, won't be blamed on me.
The story continues. This spider talks, like in the books. Then we have an epic battle with Aragog. It's time to enter the Chamber of Secrets. We battle our way through different enemies, solve puzzles, and make it to the chamber, where the basilisk is revealed. Fortunately, we're given the Sword of Gryffindor, which can shoot magic orbs. A basilisk's one weakness, other than roosters. There is Quidditch, though separate from the story. You need to find the Quidditch board and start games whenever you want. Unless this happens.
Oh. What? Suppose they can't call him the boy who lived anymore. Shame.
Now we have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for the new generation of consoles, Xbox, PlayStation 2 and GameCube. This game has a special place in my heart as I played it as a child and it was the first game we ever played on stream. Another puzzle-solving action-adventure title, this time with improved graphics and wonderfully bright and immersive environments. The game follows the story quite well, starting off at the Burrow for a spell refresher and gnome tossing again.
Oh, there we go. Oh.
We then have our first adventure, escaping from Nocturne Alley and searching for Ginny's lost items. At Hogwarts, we have very distinct days and nights. We complete challenges in classes for new spells during the day, and sneak around at night to complete our quests. The game hits the main story beats of the film, such as the duel with Draco, the basilisk attacks, visiting Aragog and using the Polyjuice potion.
Potter's never looked better.
It's open world, and one of its best features is being able to experience flying around the castle on your Nimbus 2000, checking out all the areas directly inspired by the filming locations. And hitting people with flipendo's pretty fun too.
Do you ever think that you ask too much, that you take too much for granted? Has it ever crossed your brilliant mind that I don't want to play this?
Chocolate frog cards can be found around the castle. These cards can be traded with students to collect them all, and they can also be acquired through mini-games in the grounds.
Oh, here we go. Oh, look at that. Oh, there we go.
The game, however, isn't without its quirks. There's no mention of the invisibility cloak we've seen in other games. Lockhart doesn't feature much or join the adventure to the Chamber of Secrets. And most bizarrely of all, the Hufflepuffs are now in purple.
Hufflepuffs in purple, take that.
Finally, Ron wakes us up at night and sends us alone into the Chamber of Secrets to fight the basilisk.
You cannot win, Basilisk. I have the high ground.
Though this time Potter is the one armed with the ray gun.
Right in the face. Oh, there we go. I am good.
But he definitely needs to learn about sword safety.
Oh my gosh, he's gonna kill Ginny.
The next year there wasn't a new Harry Potter film, but there were a couple of games to fill the void, starting with Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup for the Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube and PC. This game is sort of a spin-off of the main story games, featuring some of the same character models and voices. Our Quidditch journey begins at Hogwarts, and we have the chance to play as any of the 4 houses, with fully named and voiced teams. Madam Hooch and the rest of our chosen team walk us through the controls to the game, and the House Cup begins.
Only the team with the most points wins the Quidditch Cup, obviously.
The Quidditch is played faithfully to the book, with our 3 chasers trying to score past the keeper by shooting through the hoops, using combos and volleys, or by using special moves.
Oh my word.
Scoring 10 points each time. The beaters appear when the bludger is in play, either taking control of the bludger itself or defending a chaser. And of course the seeker chases the snitch once the snitch bar is full, for a whopping 150 points, ending the game.
You might as well just pour concrete into the Hufflepuff dormitory and have done with it.
Quidditch really is strange. Once we've won the cup at Hogwarts, we get to choose a country to represent at the World Cup, and our house team gets to watch. We get to choose between 9 different teams, each with their own unique special move and pitch, such as England's football-inspired special move featuring a classic bicycle kick, and Japan's beautiful pitch surrounded by a palace. The World Cup itself gets very repetitive, however, as there are 16 games to play, and there are a few nations missing, including Ireland, who famously won in the Goblet of Fire. The game is otherwise very faithful to the books, with Ludo Bagman commentating all the matches, sadly cut from the film. The appearance of the golden snidget bird used prior to the invention of the snitch, and Bulgaria's team special move featuring Victor Krum doing the Wronski feint. Powering through, I won all 16 games and took home the World Cup, unlocking Quidditch March in the process, the birthplace of Quidditch, a fitting end to the game. Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup also came to the Game Boy Advance. This game is a much simplified version of its PC and console counterpart. It has a similar look and makes use of the very same teams. Again, we start out playing at Hogwarts, we choose our house, and then we must complete some challenges, learning the game as we go, to collect chocolate frog cards needed to unlock the House Cup. The Golden Snidget, Edgar Clogs, and Madam Hooch all return to help us out in these tutorial missions. The House Cup begins and we take control of the chasers, looking down on the pitch from above. Our current player marked with a star. The chasers pass the ball between each other, battling for possession. Each pass increases the boost your seeker will have later. Special moves can be used to score, tackle, or send in a bludger that all use up some of the seeker's boost. As the games are much shorter in this version and the snitch is 150 points, you really do need to catch it to win, so the special moves are not worth it. To catch the snitch when the meter fills up, you simply follow its trail, strafing left and right and refilling your boost with these blue orb things. Once you've won the House Cup, you get access to the World Cup. Pick your team and the games commence. Each team has its own look, stadium, and even a team special move, though a lot of the lovely world building didn't make it into the handheld version as there's no commentary. The game is a bit janky and the quaffle rarely goes where you want it to, but fortunately, this time there are only 8 games to play in the World Cup, with Bulgaria coming last for me. They were doing well, though they spent all of Victor Krum's boost on special moves, so I caught the snitch and got the job done. Next up we have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, you heard that right, the Philosopher's Stone again, but this time for the Xbox, PlayStation 2 and GameCube. This game is sort of a prequel to the Chamber of Secrets on those consoles, as they weren't really around when the film first came out. The game is very similar to the Chamber of Secrets, using the same character models, castle and grounds, spells, and similar mission and story elements. This time we start out at Ollivander's to choose our wand before heading to Hogwarts. A lot of the dialogue and scenes from the game are taken note for note from the film, as, unlike development for other games, they were actually able to watch the film first.
Oh my, look at this, he's got scrolling text, that's how much he has to say.
Again, our lessons consist of Harry being sent to complete trials to receive spellbugs, but for the first time we get to see what happens when someone else attempts a trial.
Oh my word.
We get the return of some old enemies, such as the fire crabs and gnomes, but also new enemies to defeat, such as the troll in the dungeon. Thought you ought to know. The game retains the lovely open world structure, allowing you to fly about the grounds on your broom, but jinxing Hufflepuffs is no longer allowed. The game is quite hard in places.
Oh my word. Oh,
Trolls and venomous tentacula being especially difficult to defeat, as well as the battle with Professor Quirrell. As if Harry faints, the encounter restarts with a fraction of your health and your used potions gone, so make sure you save often. Fortunately, I was able to scrape through the encounter and defeat the Dark Lord. Again.
there we go, look at that, wrecked him. Oh, he didn't know what was coming.
Next year came Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. First we have the Xbox, PS2 and GameCube version, a follow-up to the previous titles on these consoles. The game vaguely follows the plot of the film, starting off on the Hogwarts Express.
Ah, there I am, just hiding back there.
Though most of the gameplay comes from its own additions to the story, such as Draco getting his own back on Potter with Polyjuice, an adventure in the Muggle Studies department, and Shrieking Shack shenanigans. Instead of it all being about Harry, players now take control of Ron and Hermione too, each having their own skills. skills, such as Ron having the Weasley touch and ability to find hidden passages, Harry being able to climb ropes, and Hermione crawling through small spaces, though she does also have the most spells. There are multiple puzzles throughout each level, many needing all of the characters to solve them. The drawbacks to having the whole trio running around the school are waiting for them to catch up and Ron's constant moaning.
I really
Yes,
need
you
some
wouldn't have
antidote
needed
now.
antidote if you actually helped out. Ron, you are driving me crazy.
The game is still open world, with the castle updated to match the new film, with both a winter and summer season. Unfortunately, we aren't able to fly our broom around the grounds, though we do have Buckbeak, whom we can ride around, and Hedwig, who flies with a janky wing flapping mechanic also used in the Owl minigame. Dementors are the main villains of this piece, and whenever they draw near, we hear the last moments of Lily and James Potter.
It's him. Oh dear, that must be James I'm hearing. Oh. It's heartbreaking to hear the last moments of my very best friend.
Unfortunately, the end to the game feels quite rushed. After fighting your way to the Shrieking Shack past all the new enemies, you fight off the Dementors at the Great Lake, twice, back to back, and it's game complete. Next, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban on the PC, a game following on from the previous PC titles. The game starts out on the train to Hogwarts searching for Scabbers. We initially take control of Harry, backed by Ron and Hermione, as there are some spells that require all three characters to cast. Suddenly, a Dementor attacks and Ron must buy time throwing luggage at it until Professor Lupin appears to send it away. We arrive at Hogwarts and ascend straight into lessons. Similar to the previous game, one student is picked to complete the trial, with the first challenger being Ron, learning the original Carpe Retractum spell.
Just Accio, really. Accio with extra steps.
Next, Harry has a short flight round a track on Buckbeak before Hermione's turn to learn two more original spells, Lapifors and Draconifors. The first can turn a small statue into a rabbit that can access small places, dig, and look cute. And the latter can turn a statue into a small dragon that can fly and breathe fire. Harry completes the Glacius challenge, sliding down into the abyss beneath Hogwarts.
We're just in the middle of nowhere. Oh, this is scary as anything. Look at this.
And also must learn Expecto Patronum to stun Dementors, but is betrayed by Professor Lupin.
Oh gosh, Remus, why would you do this?
The main story kicks in with fairly basic but fun cutscenes, and we must find our way to the Shrieking Shack by navigating the tunnels like one of the challenges, switching between Harry and Hermione at set stages. We make it to the shack, the cutscene rolls, and we all leave together. But wait, where's Snape? In fact, I've not seen him at all this game. Turns out he was cut. We get a gross transformation and it's time to battle Dementors. This game does Dementors well too, it's scary seeing them all surrounding you. We take the time turners to go and free Buckbeak by completing another challenge-like puzzle. We drop in on the Hippogriff and he takes us back to the lake to battle the Dementors. A little more successfully this time.
Who else wants some?
And that's it. Again, there's very little story early on, with it all coming out of nowhere at the end. The game's main focus being the challenges, and in fact, it's not over yet, as we have the final exams to complete. The game felt very quick as I was teleported from place to place with no time to explore Hogwarts.
Oh, alright. Off to the next place, I suppose.
Which is a shame as it looks great and characters have immersive dialogue that changes relative to your progress, and of course, Peeves causing mayhem. I completed the final exams and deemed this game complete.
I keep on hanging on.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban also came to the Game Boy Advance. The game is a bit of a merger of previous Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color times. It's a turn-based roleplay game with graphics similar to the last Game Boy Advance title and similar puzzles, using spells out of combat to affect the world around you, such as repairing bridges and breaking barrels. The art style of the game has been updated from the previous roleplay games for the newer console, with much more detail in the characters and surrounding areas, though I quite like the simplicity of the old sprites. Combat is familiar but has been revamped, giving encounters a more three-dimensional feel. We start out playing as Harry, but later have Ron and Hermione join the party at various times, and sometimes without Harry. We start out at the Leaky Cauldron with no mention of the disturbance at Privet Drive. We then head to the train to meet Professor Lupin and a Dementor, and this is the first of a few times the game splits the party and you choose who to follow, adding some replayability, though you all soon meet back up. The rest of the game takes place around Hogwarts. We start out going to classes and running errands, many which involve the Monster Book of Monsters, before the story kicks in. There are lots of moments from the book, but not the film, such as Ron needing rat tonic for Scabbers and Sir Cadogan taking the place of the Fat Lady. But there are some story elements in the game that aren't so great, like Harry receiving the firebolt, but without the context of the Nimbus 2000 breaking because of Sirius, giving it up to McGonagall to study, receiving it back immediately and then using it off-screen. Oh, and Snape literally seeing Peter Pettigrew, which changes everything. It's not long before the end sequence starts and we have to battle our way to the Shrieking Shack for a lackluster reveal, battle our way back and fight off some Dementors in a minigame. This title boasts a few little minigames like the older roleplay games. The Boggart minigame works nicely, seeing ridiculous in effect. And Albus's Wizard Cracker game is there too. Ron gets Avada Kedavra, and we use the Time Turner to teleport into the Forbidden Forest. We fight our way out and rescue Buckbeak. We go to save our past selves, but it would have been nice if we got a version of this scene earlier, similar to the movie. We help Buckbeak defeat Lupin as our own spells are useless, which is a nice change of pace. Then we fly off to save Sirius, but not before the final boss battle. Pettigrew, perhaps? No, Draco, for some reason, and the poor guy doesn't stand a chance. Those Mallet guys put up more of a fight. Another game complete. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire makes some huge departures from our previous games. From now on, all PC and console games are very similar with few changes between each console. The style for this title is more realistic, heavily based on the films, with the story being told through 2D animations like this, using the characters as they appear in the film. The game starts in the middle of the action at the Quidditch World Cup.
Oh my word! I'm dead already. Oh no, we're okay.
And unfortunately, the game is no longer open world. It is split into a series of levels where you must choose one of the trio to players, and the others follow.
They all look so gormless. Oh my word. I don't want to play as any of them.
There's a mixture of story levels, such as the Triwizard Challenges that you must play as Harry, and class or Hogwarts levels. To play each Triwizard Challenge, you must collect a certain amount of Triwizard Shields, by replaying the Hogwarts levels multiple times. These levels are quite expansive, though you do end up treading a lot of the same ground. The game is more focused on combat encounters, needing different spells for different foes, and using the utility of Wingardium Leviosa on your enemies or the environment around you.
Making that one hover's really not helping that much. Oh, there we go. Run! Ronald Weasley! For goodness sake, man! Did you see that, students? Throws a massive rock right at me.
After fighting your way through the maze in the final trial, the encounter with Voldemort begins. The story is briefly summed up during some B-roll of the graveyard, and we are straight into the strangest Priori Incantatem I've seen.
Well, hey, yeah! Swing that spell, Potter!
Smashing skeletons and dodging statues until finally the epic ending cutscene rolls, and we get out of there. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire also came to the Game Boy Advance and was the first Harry Potter game released on the Nintendo DS, though it's mostly the same game but for a few odd additions. The game follows the direction of its PC and console counterpart. It's split into multiple levels, many with the same names, and we pick one of the trio to play as, with the other two following along. Again, we start at the Quidditch World Cup with a similar slideshow and we're straight into the action. We use the spells we learn on our journey to make our way through the levels, creating a path and fending off creatures. One of the first spells we learn is Ventus, an original spell that has since worked its way into canon in the Fantastic Beast films. The class and Hogwarts missions are all quite unique, with interesting puzzles, though they do feel like they go on just a bit too long. The Herbology mission has been switched out for a Care of Magical Creatures mission, where we need to capture Hagrid's lost creatures and are introduced to the blast-ended Scroots. And there's even an extra Yule Ball minigame, easily the most annoying part of the game, where you need to hit the various buttons at the right time, but this blue crystal thing in the middle isn't lined up properly. The Triwizard missions are shorter and a bit of a mixed bag. The first task is very simplistic, flying away from the dragon and dodging obstacles. The second task is quite nice, navigating the waters of the Black Lake as calm yet eerie music plays. The third task is the maze, which we must find our way through, coming across many creatures we've encountered previously, such as the Dugbogs and Mosps again, and extra creatures like the creepy Urklings. For the missions with the full trio, the rest of the gang actually help out quite a bit, attacking enemies and more importantly, collecting beans for you. It's time for the last level. We confundo Voldemort a bit in its Priori Incantatum time. Good job we practiced this at the Yule Ball, I guess. The DS version adds a few extra bits. Sometimes when you've cast on an enemy and when battling the Dark Lord, combat becomes a one-on-one using the touchscreen, drawing shapes and defending attacks, though it's kind of annoying. At odd points during levels on the DS version, the Weasley twins appear and force you to play an extremely simple minigame. For some reason. And once we've complete care of magical creatures, we get to look after a Niffler. What is that? Coming out 2 years later, our first game for the next generation of consoles, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Like the Goblet of Fire, this game heavily resembles the films, but we happily return to the open world format. The game starts out with a spell refresher at Grimmauld Place where we learn the new controls using the thumbsticks or Wii Remote to cast, with varying results.
Down. No, okay. Down. No, up. Down. Oh, my word. Down. Oh, down!
The bulk of the game is at Hogwarts and there's plenty of content to enjoy. At the beginning of the year, we spend our time recruiting members for Dumbledore's army by helping the students with their various problems, learning spells in the Room of Requirement and completing quests for the professors. Around the school, there are multiple games to play, including gobstones and exploding snaps.
Whoa. That's changed. That's definitely changed.
Both created for this game and later working their way into canon.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, 1, 2, oh my word, I'm good.
And of course, the iconic wizard chess.
Oh, there we go. Oh, now this is chess.
The next part of the game represents Hogwarts when Umbridge was at the height of her power. The quests are now focused on sabotaging Umbridge and the Inquisitorial Squad, such as setting off the portable swamps that completely transform some areas of the map. Students can no longer be seen in groups or playing games. The game boasts some familiar voices, including those of Rupert Grint, Ralph Fiennes, and many others, as well as using some of the actors for 3D scans to create their characters in-game. The game of course has its quirks, such as Potter climbing up the owlery Assassin's Creed style. Fun, though a little odd. The Legilimency minigame with both Snape and Voldemort, and Moaning Myrtle's obsession with getting us to go to the Room of Rewards with her. As the game is so focused on Hogwarts life, the end feels very quick, with some odd moments and janky cutscenes. Although you do get the chance to play as both Sirius Black and Dumbledore.
Oh my word, how many spells do I need to hit this guy with? It's like he thinks he's the Dark Lord or something.
Once you've completed the story, you are returned to Hogwarts and the school is back to normal, with students grouped in the corridors and playing games and the portable swamps cleared away. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix was also released on both the Game Boy Advance and the Nintendo DS. Unlike the Goblet of Fire, where the DS version was just a Game Boy version with a few extra bits, this game feels like it was built for the DS and then squashed down into the Game Boy Advance. Both games start out at the playground in Little Whinging and have this strange perspective where you can move Harry from scene to scene, which can often result in getting stuck warping from one scene to the other. This layout works better on the DS, which has different but similar scenes, though with a far better compass. We follow Dudley, encounter a Dementor, and end up at Grimmauld Place for a bit of a tutorial. The DS version makes use of the touchpad for interacting with the world and casting spells, but the Game Boy version uses a little one sprite and button mashing for spells, which gets very old and very frustrating, fast. We head to Hogwarts and both games follow the same story, very similar to the console and PC version, attending class, recruiting members for the DA and battling Slytherins. The combat in both versions is turn-based, with a return to the Uno, Duo, Trio power levels, but very simplified. The Game Boy version is pure button mashing, where I was never able to do the top spells, and the DS version uses the touchpad, where I only ever bothered using the top spells. Interestingly, on the DS version you need to tilt the console on its side for both combat and spell practicing in the Room of Requirement. The game references some stuff missing from the film, such as McGonagall's time in St. Mungo's and Spew, a full game late. The DS version has a lot more content, such as the Talking Gargoyle mission similar to the console and PC game, more minigames like gobstones, and extra dialogue that makes the story much smoother. The game comes to an end quite quickly after the final DA meeting. There's a brief bit of tormenting Umbridge, some dialogue, and straight off to the Ministry of Magic. After an extremely brief bit of exploring, the fights begin. We get to play as Sirius, Dumbledore, and on the DS version, Lupin, but there's not much difference between them and our regular characters. Then we finish with the final bit of occlumency, almost a run-ender on the Game Boy, and super easy on the DS, and the Dark Lord is defeated again. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince initially feels comparable to the Order of the Phoenix, using the same map of Hogwarts, but don't be fooled. We start out at the Burrow to learn our first spells, and it's immediately evident something is off. Freaky character models aside, the vast majority of the game is the same 3 activities over and over: combat, Quidditch, and potion making.
Now this is going to be how it's done. Oh!
Combat has been improved somewhat from the previous game, at the cost of becoming one-on-one duels. Quidditch is a simple flying through hoops minigame, but we end up spending a lot of time on the pitch. There are multiple practice sessions and even mandatory practice before each of the 3 games against the other houses. Potion brewing is a major part of this game and honestly quite fun. The game knows this and tries to turn every opportunity into potion brewing time. The Nintendo Wii utilizes the control and nunchuck for moving, brewing, and spellcasting.
Expelliarmus!
Which is fun, but makes for some interesting moments.
Reyt, that'll show Goyle and the others.
Wait, did I just do it? Did I just repair the thing? I wasn't even paying attention. My word, hang on. There we go. Just on the table now. See if we can catch the snitch without doing anything. Good, yes. Oh, not great. Here we go, students. Don't worry about all that. Straight through the middle, brilliant. There we go. Managed to catch the snitch without touching the remote. Oh my word.
The story is glossed over in parts with some quite awkward cutscenes.
Come to play, Harry.
But there are some standout moments too that make this game well worth playing. We get an iconic Snape and Harry encounter straight out of the books.
There's no need to call me Sir, Professor.
We get to play as Ron under the influence of Love Potion with some hilarious music.
Oh, this is an insult.
Harry sprinting at Mark 1, and some genuinely heartfelt dialogue.
What about Dumbledore's funeral? You shouldn't send the students home. They'll want to say goodbye.
Oh my word, I didn't ask for feels right now.
The brilliant BAFTA-nominated score by James Hannigan really adds to these moments. Unfortunately, the game ends in a flash just when I hoped we'd get to test our skills against the man himself. And that's another game complete. The Nintendo DS version of the Half-Blood Prince is next, and similar to the Order of the Phoenix, another free roam game, but with much better environments and a slightly condensed version of Hogwarts. The game starts out with some Quidditch at the Burrow, which uses the stylus to control the chasers, pass and shoot. In later games you need to catch the snitch, though you're never told how, and this almost ended my whole video. We next find ourselves on the Hogwarts Express and find out how the rest of the game will play out. We learn Accio, the first of a few spells used to affect our environment, and attain collectibles such as wizard cards, gobstones, chess pieces, and butterbeer. These are used as currency to acquire items or knowledge and complete quests. We find 3 wizard cards to trade for a magazine, which we can then trade for Luna's Spectre Specs, to give back to Luna so we can get an invite to Slughorn's carriage. There's lots of this. Once we get to the castle, we have free roam of Hogwarts and have various quests to complete, many requiring trading various collectibles. Some needing us to brew a potion to trade in a minigame quite reminiscent of the PC and console version. And some see us dueling Slytherins in a very basic combat minigame, where we either cast a Jinx up or down or use a shield charm up or down. Riveting. The game world is quite immersive, students around you give hints when completing quests. The story of the film is well represented, and there's even some references to the books. The main story missions, the attack on the Burrow, defending against the Inferi and chasing Snape, are all simplified to a very basic minigame, a first-person shooter-like game where we tap on enemies to fire a Jinx at them. The game ends after shooting a lot of Death Eaters and awkwardly following Snape out into the grounds. But we do get the epic dialogue and the heartfelt scene with Hagrid, and thus we complete another game. Our next game is a little different. This is LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 to 4, coming out in 2010, 8 years after the last LEGO Harry Potter game. The game is split into Harry's first 4 years at Hogwarts, containing separate missions within, where we take control of LEGO Harry and friends, playing through the events of the books and films. There is no dialogue in this game, all cutscenes are acted out in a humorous, slapstick way. Between missions you have free roam of Hogwarts and time to go to classes where you learn spells. Spells have different abilities that can affect the environment around you. For a game made out of LEGO, it is incredibly faithful to the books, including references and characters missing from the films. Lots of the locations are very reminiscent of the sets and locations used in the films, adding to the immersion of the world. The game has so much replayability. The free play mode lets you replay missions as any of the 167 different characters that can be unlocked along the way.
Yes. Oh my word, students, it's the moment, finally. Here he is.
Different characters have different specialities that can unlock unique areas when playing old missions. This game is the first to make great use of the film score. It's not just the disco remix, combined with atmospheric sound design, though I dare not play any here.
Come and seek us where our voices sound. We cannot sing above the ground. 1 hour you will have to look to find the something that we took.
I sometimes find the game a little overwhelming and nauseating.
Alright, this is the bit where I had to give up last time because I was just getting far too ill.
But maybe I'm just getting on a bit. I made my way through this gem of a game, defeating the Dark Lord in all sorts of ways. But we'll have to return someday for all the extras I missed. Maybe I'll play the remastered version. A Nintendo DS version of LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 to 4 was also released in a similar style. It was later ported to iPhone and Android users, but is no longer available. The game has many of the same features as the console and PC version: collectible studs, unlockable characters, free play, and even the iconic music. This version features the Room of Requirement as its hub, instead of the Leaky Cauldron. Odd though, as Harry didn't know about the room until his 5th year. The game is split up into the 4 different years, with many missions within. Some are quite small, such as classes, and some story missions are much longer. A lot of the obstacles you encounter in the game require familiar spells to pass that are learned through the course of the story, such as Wingardium Leviosa, Accio, and Incendio. These spells are cast by using the touchpad to draw the correct wand movement. We also learn some combat spells such as Stupefy and Reducto. The latter we learn before ever going to Hogwarts. You know, this spell.
Reducto!
There are some obstacles that can't be passed with spells. For example, you might need a strong character to move them. You may need to figure them out for yourself, or hiss into the microphone. Parcel tongue. The game follows the story well, borrowing the cutscenes from the console and PC version, and includes more nods to the books, such as Peeves' unwanted interjections. And we finally get to see the Sphinx in the maze task. This version even includes enemies from previous games, like the fire crabs. I completed the story defeating Voldemort once more. But more impressively, with my red bricks activated, I had more gold than the Malfoys. Coming out later that year, we have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. With only a year between the release of the Half-Blood Prince and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 on the big screen, there wasn't long to spend developing the game. And it shows.
It's like he's farting along. Look.
This installment of Harry Potter is, oddly, a third-person shooter. Many of the spells in the game represent different weapon types found in a typical shooter, with a couple of utility spells such as Confundo and Protego. On the Wii, we use our remote like an old arcade shooter, but it does make turning around a nightmare.
Can't turn around. I can't. The game forgot to make a turn around button.
The game starts at the Burrow for the ambush before we flee to the barren and desolate centre of London. It's nothing like Piccadilly Circus here, for some awkward sneaking around. We're soon faced with our first filler missions. These take up a lot of the game, aren't part of the books or films, and are mostly made up of map segments from other levels. We're left just to fight our way through these boring levels. That could have added so much intrigue if we could have only played them as other members of the Order, and found out what some of them were up to during this time. Even some of the main story missions have us going to and fro through the same level, retracing our steps again and again. Some of the mission locations resemble their on-screen counterparts quite well. Godric's Hollow is especially faithful to the set.
Oh my word, students. Oh my goodness.
With Potter Watch episodes hidden throughout, voiced by the Phelps twins as Fred and George.
And now over to Rapier for our popular feature, pals of Potter.
adding a nice touch of world building. Though we should have had some Lee Jordan too. I guess Luke Youngblood was too busy. Pop, pop. Anyway, after the long slog through the game, we arrive at Malfoy Manor for the climactic battle against Bellatrix and family. And it's done already. That was easy.
The game ends not with a bang, but with a whimper.
When I started playing the Nintendo DS version of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, I spent the first half hour thinking I'd accidentally bought a fake version. And here's why. Other than Snape just grooving at the beginning, the first thing you notice is it's silent. Apart from a few tracks shamelessly stolen from the Order of the Phoenix game, used in the title screen and a couple of other places we'll get to later. The second thing you notice is the character models. PS1 Hagrid is back 9 years after his debut. The game is structured similarly to the console and PC version, with similar level concepts, and we start with a first-person shooter section fleeing Privet Drive. We silently watch some very awkwardly animated cutscenes before the attack on the burrow. We used a stylus to move Harry around and cast Stupefy at enemies, following the compass around the map. And that's about it. There's a bit of awkwardly sneaking around, some extra spells that have specific uses, or not much use at all, and both Ron and Hermione have special abilities. Ron can use the Deluminator on some lamps, somehow making enemies unable to see you. Hermione can stop time with Arresto Momentum, freezing enemies in place. This, combined with the leveled up Stupefy, is all you need to take out most enemies. If your health gets low, you can just brew a Wiggenweld potion mid-battle, brewing in a similar way to previous games. We fight our way through the Ministry of Magic, quickly dispatching Umbridge, and battle our way through various campsites, before Ron abandons us and it's time to visit Godric's Hollow. We meet Befilda Bagshot, who transforms into Nagini in the most basic way. And there's actually some music that fits in no way to the scene, as we try and shoot the snake in first person. There are a couple of nice touches. Decoy detonators are cool. We see the rain in the office that Ron was tasked with stopping, and Harry taking back Mad-Eye Moody's eye from Umbridge's office. We fight our way through a couple more areas, including following this doe? Before the final battle with Bellatrix, backed by an oddly edited piece of music from a previous game, where we just stay out of the way and Dobby deals with it for us. He dies somehow and it's game over. Thank goodness. As the last installment of Harry Potter hit the cinemas, our last companion game was released, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Although another third-person shooter, this game is incredibly faithful to the film and improves on the last game in many ways. Missions are based around areas encountered in the film and look extremely good. We kick off straight into the action at Gringotts, make our way through Hogsmeade.
Do you mind? Personal space. My word.
And play the rest of the game out in various locations around Hogwarts. We take control of multiple different defenders of the castle as they fight off the Dark Lord's attack, such as Neville and Seamus setting the charges to blow up the wooden bridge, Professor McGonagall defending the viaduct from the attacking giants, and Molly Weasley as she battles Bellatrix Lestrange in the Great Hall. The spells have been made much easier to switch between than in Part 1, though they do still feel a lot like your typical shooter types.
Got him. Got him.
The game makes use of a few quick-time events, though easy enough and not too long, as well as a running away event that is honestly quite well used and fitting to the story, though sometimes a little hard.
Well, go on then. Oh, what? You just stopped moving.
The game is quite short, there are no real extras, and it can get a little annoying at times.
Goodness sake, man, for goodness sake, oh my word.
But there are some really immersive moments with unique dialogue, such as your time in the Room of Requirement, the epic moment the shield around Hogwarts falls.
Oh my word. Oh my word.
And the emotional walk into the Forbidden Forest, hearing the familiar voices of James and Lily Potter from the films. After defeating Voldemort in a couple of different places and completing the game, to mark the end of an era, we are shown clips of many of the previous games, which I, having recently played through them all, found particularly touching. Though, fortunately, we still have many more to come. Closing the series for handheld is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 on the Nintendo DS. This game carries on from the previous Deathly Hallows title, but thankfully improves in every way. And there's music! It's often misplaced and needs muting from time to time, But it's there. The game starts with the last level of the previous game, escaping from Malfoy Manor. But the maps, the characters, and the animations all look a little better, making for a much better experience. We are no longer confined to just a stylus to move, which is great, and the UI is much less confusing. We can swap between characters who have slightly different abilities or spells, and can use some spells by tracing the shapes. Wait, this is familiar. We go through the level collecting magic points and casting area spells. Hey, this is all Harry Potter Lego. Anyway, Dobby crushes Bellatrix and the game continues. We spend some time in Diagon Alley and puzzle our way through Gringotts before encountering the dragon. We get to Hogwarts and have the chance to play many different characters, such as McGonagall, Flitwick, and Neville, in all sorts of situations, battling the Carrows, blowing up the bridge, and defeating Crabbe. The game does get quite repetitive and frustrating at times, but there are some interesting bits too. When playing as McGonagall, you can transform into her cat Animagus. You can't do much, but it's still cool. There's a sad moment with Draco after Crabbe dies, and later he gives Harry his wand to battle Voldemort, similar to the deleted scene. Then there's McGonagall fighting waves of the same slithering girl. I guess long silver hair was in that year. I beat most of the game battling through the different maps by using the split spell that you can fire from behind Protego. Easy. The final battle with Voldemort is a bit strange. You burn him with flamethrowers, Harry tackles him, then there's a bit of stylus wiggling and job done. Back in the world of LEGO for our next game, LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 to 7, coming out in 2011, a few months after the completion of the film saga. This game is a direct sequel to Years 1 to 4. To that end, it's quite similar, of course with different missions, characters, and even music, coming from the later films that I still don't dare play. The game feels more expansive, with many more locations outside of Hogwarts. Different free-roam locations such as the City of London and the Deathly Hallows campsites, all merged into one map. And this time a whopping 200 different unlockable characters, including some very interesting ones.
Snape. Underwear. Snape. Underwear. What?
The game feels much grander than the previous game, with many more characters playable in story mode and some epic moments and duels. Again, many of the mission locations are based on the sets and filming locations, such as King's Cross, which looks exactly like the real thing. The game catches the darker tone and larger scale of the 5th to 7th books well, though the cutscenes definitely retain their humorous style.
What the heck? Oh my word! The disrespect.
Like Years 1 to 4, this game initially came out on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, and PC, but was later combined with Years 1 to 4 to create the LEGO Harry Potter collection for next-gen consoles, and has recently been remastered for current-gen consoles. Years 5 to 7 has some awesome moments, such as playing as the Peveril brothers in the Deathly Hallows tale, playing as Dumbledore on his first visit to Tom Riddle and at his epic battle at the Ministry of Magic, and of course, squashing Hermione with a tricycle.
Oh. Sorry, Hermione, my word, she's always in the wrong place at the wrong time, isn't she?
There are loads of book references and unique characters to unlock that can be found and purchased with all the studs you collect, just like in the first game. Fancy characters, cool unlocks, and the free play mode make these two games endlessly replayable, and they definitely still hold up today. That said, I defeated the Dark Lord a couple more times and called this game complete. Though, not entirely. LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 to 7 also came to the Nintendo DS, and is our last game for the handheld console. It too was ported onto iOS and Android, but again isn't available. Unlike the first game, Years 5 to 7 is more like a condensed version of the main console and PC game. Again, it uses some of the same cutscenes and the usual elements we expect from a LEGO game, but this time it even uses the exact same locations, a very similar UI, and a lot of the same mechanics. This time our hub world is the castle itself, where we can enter each of the 4 stories, which contain different chapters within. Each of these chapters is made up of smaller missions from the main game. A lot of stuff is skipped in this version, as the missions are much shorter and a lot of the cutscenes don't make too much sense, as they're designed around the much larger missions. Some of the classes that were completely separate from the missions in the main version have been added to the missions on the DS. A few missions condense events that take part over quite a long span of time. Oddly, there's very little from the Deathly Hallows Part 1, whereas the penultimate chapter in Part 2 is a huge mission. The DS uses the touchscreen to display the spell wheel, similar to the wheel in the main game. It can be used for changing spells, but isn't needed, and in fact, the touchscreen is barely needed or used at all. Although mostly a condensed version of the main release, there are a couple of things unique to the DS, such as pets and animagi catching mice, and a few extra well-known characters available for free play, such as Dennis, Malcolm, and Verity. You don't know them. How about Phineas Nigellus Black, Igor Karkaroff, and the Peveril brothers? The combat is split between the usual spamming jinxes and a dueling mode that is mechanically similar to the Half-Blood Prince on DS, though it looks a lot better, casting a spell left or right and using Protego. The game once again makes use of the score from the films, though sometimes they're oddly placed, such as the lovely calming music from the Deathly Hallows Part 1, played when Harry's chasing Snape and Bellatrix after Dumbledore's death and the grounds burn around him. Fortunately, the music was suitably epic when I defeated Voldemort for our penultimate time. In the years following the end of the films, there were still some Harry Potter games to come out, at least for console players. Xbox and PlayStation both released exclusives, making use of their new motion sensing technology. First, in 2012, came the Xbox 360 exclusive Harry Potter for Kinect, and as the title suggests, it requires the Xbox Kinect accessory, used for tracking the player's motions. The game is split up into multiple minigames within each school year that require all sorts of different actions, such as jumping a troll's club, sidestepping the basilisk's attacks, and blocking the quaffle with Ron's head.
Oh, it's my favourite one so far.
Each minigame is based on a scene in one of the films, with very similar environments, dialogue, and even animations. We start with a brief introduction, receiving our Hogwarts letter and choosing a wand before we begin Harry's first year at Hogwarts. The first and second years have a number of missions based on classes, including potions and herbology, but the majority of the scenes are based on some of the most important moments of the series, such as Harry battling the basilisk, the Priore Incantatem, and Dumbledore dueling Voldemort. Not to mention playing as Severus Snape at the end of the Half-Blood Prince.
I mean, this is really cool, but really lame at the same time. I don't really know how to explain it.
There are some odd missions in there too, like throwing rocks at Nagini, which is a whole mission. Ron...
Ugh, go on, Ron's head will stop anything. Oh, except the bludger, except the bludger.
And riding a minecart, which was kinda cool. I started playing this game on advanced difficulty. That was a mistake. It wasn't long before I switched to casual, but even then this game is a workout. Maybe I'm very unfit, maybe the sensors aren't very accurate, but there were some missions that completely tired me out. I thought the Whomping Willow was tough. Then I got to the second task. Destroying the bridge was brutal, and the final duel took everything I had left. The game feels a bit unfinished. The first couple of years have 5, then 4 missions, but years 3 to 6 barely scrape 3. Snape talks during potions class, but seems to lose his voice later on.
You're the Half-Blood Prince.
And the motions for the missions get quite repetitive. There are some nice extras. The main menu is in Dumbledore's office and you can pet forks and listen to the Sorting Hat sing.
I'll eat myself if you can find a smarter hat than me.
You can make Harry throw some hilarious shapes.
Posing Potter!
And if you fail a mission, you get an alternate ending, such as Voldemort standing over Dumbledore's body. That said, I won't be coming back to this one unless I need a good workout. Later in 2012, another console exclusive arrived, this time for the PlayStation 3, Wonderbook Book of Spells. This is an augmented reality game that makes use of the PlayStation Move and PlayStation Eye accessories, as well as the Wonderbook book. The game lets you take the place of a Hogwarts student who has stumbled upon the 200-year-old Book of Spells. Written by Miranda Goshawk in the restricted section of the library, a mysterious professor guides you through the book and instructs you how to use it. The PlayStation Eye puts you right into the game, and the augmented reality transforms the blue and white Wonderbook into the magic Book of Spells. We choose our house and our wand, then the PlayStation Move controller is transformed into the very same one we chose. In the game, of course.
Well, there we go. I've got a wand, students.
The game is split into multiple chapters. You choose a chapter and open the book. Each chapter has unique pages that teach you many of the well-known spells from the wizarding world and give you the chance to practice them. You can choose your current spell by making the correct shape of the wand, then cast by either flicking the wand or using the trigger button.
It's very handy they've implemented buttons onto wands these days.
Once you've completed the first 4 chapters, you unlock Chapter 5, where we learn more advanced spells like Reducto and the Patronus Charm, and use them in a trial at the end, fending off werewolves, venomous tentacula, and even dementors.
Werewolves?
No one told me it was a full moon.
The game is quite short and requires a lot of extras that I was fortunately able to get all in one, and definitely aims towards younger children, but still has some lovely moments and new world building. Some of the spells have special stories about their creation, and at the end of each chapter we're read a parable by Miranda Goshawk herself. And once we've completed all chapters, we unlock the final tale, revealing the morals to each of the stories and ending the game. A year later came Wonderbook, Book of Potions. This game makes use of the same augmented reality technology as the Book of Spells, this time turning our Wonderbook into the 400-year-old Book of Potions by Zygmunt Budge. Budge somehow left part of his personality in the book. Very ominous. And guides us through it himself, teaching us how to brew the cure for boils first, by completing various steps such as preparing ingredients, adding them to the mixture, stirring, heating, and casting a final spell. There's a bit more of a story to this game as Budge realizes our potential and using a portkey transports us to the Wizarding School Potions Championship. We keep making our way through the book, brewing potions that will help in our many encounters as we make our way to the Golden Cauldron prize, such as shrinking a troll or sending a massive snake to sleep. Of course, potions need ingredients, and a lot of our time is spent searching for the correct ones, examining plants and a variety of creatures, and using the spells from the previous game to collect them. When examining specimens, we can rotate the book, which in turn rotates the specimen. Impressive. Zygmunt Budge recounts some of his life to us while we wait for potions to brew in these 3D depictions. We learn to brew some very well-known potions, with the final brew being the Luck Potion, Felix Felicis. We use the potion on ourselves this time and win the Golden Cauldron. With it, we get the chance to brew our own concoction. And the toad we've spent so much time experimenting on finally gets his happy ending. Zygmunt is humbled and full of praise for us and promises to never kidnap any more students. Another game complete. For the next 5 years, no more games came out, until in 2017 Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery was released on mobile. A role-playing game, this is the first time we can create our own character and choose our house. Set 7 years before Harry Potter would attend Hogwarts, we play as a student starting their first year and follow them through their school journey as they try to uncover the mysteries surrounding their brother. We start alone in Diagon Alley, where we're introduced to our first friend and the mechanics of the game, before attending Hogwarts. Hogwarts Mystery is, in a way, played in real time. The majority of tasks and classes within the game require you to tap on different highlighted items, using up your energy reserves to collect enough stars to complete the task. You are usually given between 1 and 8 hours for these tasks, and you often need that time, as you will quickly run out of energy, especially as you advance into the game. This is definitely not a quick game. It takes 4 minutes to recover 1 energy. You can buy energy and other resources used in the game, and my word, this is pushed on you quite a bit, though isn't at all necessary. There's lots of extra stuff outside the main story that can help you progress. You can look after different magical creatures and send them off on missions, rewarding you extra resources. You can build your friendships with activities such as sharing lunch in the Great Hall or playing gobstones, though mechanically you're just answering questions. You are given ownership of an abandoned greenhouse where you can grow magical plants and harvest their resources. There are many special events, side quests, and much more. Hogwarts Mystery boasts voice acting by a number of the cast members from the films, though there's only really the odd spoken line, and the rest of the time we get these noises.
Oh!
The game is full of references, many returning potions, spells, and even some well-known characters making appearances, as teachers or even fellow students. I finished years 1 and 2, but as new releases continue to come out, I can't complete it just yet. Maybe someday. Coming out in 2020 for Android and iOS, we have Harry Potter Puzzles and Spells. This is a match 3 game where users need to manipulate items in a grid to make them disappear and complete various objectives, but with a Harry Potter twist. Puzzles and Spells is split into separate missions based on scenes from the films. These missions feature artwork related to the scenes, extra themed items in the puzzles, and even audio straight from the films.
I can tell you how to bottle fame, brew glory, and even put a stopper in death.
The scenes require you to complete a varying amount of puzzles, only a few at the beginning of the game, but the number quickly ramps up. The game is full of Harry Potter references. It uses various tracks from the films, along with some fitting music of its own, and includes well-known wizarding items in many of its puzzles. There are spells that can be cast, such as using a severing charm on a whole row, chocolate frog cards hopping all over the puzzles, and charmed bags that can collect all items of a certain colour. Different puzzles have different objectives. Some require you to disappear an amount of a certain colour. Some see you getting a character all the way to the bottom. Others require you to get potion ingredients into a cauldron, or it can even be a mixture of goals. There's lots of extras here and there, tournaments, seasons, teams. There's even pets from the Care of Magical Creatures class that can help out in puzzles. There are loads of in-app purchases, but they're not forced on you like in many other games. And there aren't any ads, unless you choose to watch them for extra stuff. The game is quite addictive, a combination of the wonderful Harry Potter music, the extremely satisfying sounds, animations, and even the vibrations make this game difficult to put down. And with over 7,000 puzzles so far, I think at 137, I'm calling this one complete. Coming out in 2023, 10 years after the last console game and 22 years since the first ever Harry Potter game, came the long-awaited Hogwarts Legacy for console and PC. Hogwarts Legacy is a role-playing game set in and around Hogwarts 100 years before Harry would start his first year. We create our own character, a late bloomer who's only just received their Hogwarts letter, known as the new 5th year.
Very rare occurrence that for magic to appear so late.
After a bit of trouble on our way to Hogwarts, we make it to the castle and it looks fantastic. We're sorted into our house and get to start exploring. We start attending our classes, learning spells, and joined a dueling club to put those spells to work, and then discovered the dangerous area around the castle. Spell combat is a huge part of Hogwarts Legacy and works really well. There are lots of iconic spells to choose from that, once equipped, are easy to cast and can be used in combination with the basic cast or other spells. Enemies range from familiar magical creatures, like the Dugbogs, first seen in the Goblet of Fire video game, and Rookwood's gang of dark witches and wizards, to unique opponents that offer a bit of a challenge.
Oh no. Oh dear. Well, that's a shame indeed.
One of the best things to do in Hogwarts Legacy is to take to the skies, either by broom or mounted upon a magical creature you've captured. Rescued. And visit the different iconic locations around Hogwarts. The story revolves around the discovery of ancient magic that our character is able to use to great effect, and prevent some questionable characters from getting their hands on it. There are a number of side quests and whole arcs. Some may be more interesting than the main story. Although we are given different dialogue choices in the game, they don't seem to change anything in the world. It seems as if there were plans for a house point system that would have helped with this, but that idea was sadly scrapped. There are some very interesting characters you befriend along the way, and some less interesting ones. The main character feels a little off at times. There are some strange quotes they say in combat.
Your blood's on Ranrock's hands.
I don't trust them. I feel Hogwarts in the game has lost some of its Britishness, which I think really adds to the quirky feel of the wizarding world, maybe due to current games being made across the pond. We're in the Scottish Highlands and barely anyone has a real Scottish accent. Not to mention, there's no one from Yorkshire. A big thing missing from Hogwarts Legacy is Quidditch, the in-game reason being that the headmaster, Phineas Nigellus Black, had cancelled it. The out-of-game reason, well, we'll get to it. Hogwarts Legacy is a brilliant step back into the wizarding world. That first playthrough will stick with me for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And the second. And the third. The next year came Harry Potter Quidditch Champions for consoles and PC, 21 years after the last Quidditch game, and the most likely reason Quidditch didn't feature in Hogwarts Legacy. This is a sports game, loosely set during the events of the main series. After creating our first chaser, we begin our journey at the Burrow and are taught the rules of the game by Ginny Weasley and company. We play a few practice games at the Burrow and learn the different Quidditch positions, gradually building up our team. Once we've learned the ropes, we can then play at the Hogwarts House Cup, then the all-new Triwizard Quidditch Cup, and finally the iconic Quidditch World Cup. In Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, we can play as any member of the team. As a chaser, our job is to score goals with the quaffle, tackle opponents for possession, and defend our own hoops. We can play as the beater, summoning our bludger to hit other players, hoping to knock them off their brooms. And if that fails...
Nice shot, Slytherin.
We can play as the keeper, defending the hoops and motivating our players with boosts. Once the snitch is released, we can play as the Seeker in the hopes of catching it to secure our team more points. The game has 3v3 and 6v6 multiplayer, where you choose what position or positions you want to play, or choose a random position. Because of this, the rules of Quidditch have been altered a bit to balance the game. There's only one beater per team, and they have their own bludger. Catching the snitch only awards 30 points instead of the usual 150 and doesn't end the game. The game only ends once one team has got 100 points, or after the time limit. The Quidditch plays really well, and I had a lot of fun and a bit of stress completing the different cups and playing games online.
Oh, could you imagine, students? Could you imagine?
Other than the game balancing, there are a few extra lore changes. There's a United Kingdom team instead of the canonical England, Wales and Scotland teams. And there's a new Quidditch Cup between Beauxbaton, Durmstrang and Hogwarts called the Triwizard School Quidditch Cup. But maybe it would have made a bit more sense to have a regional league in its place, with teams like the Chudley Cannons and the Harpies, where you could have a career going from Hogwarts to a regional team to a World Cup team. Characters commentating the matches include Ginny Weasley, Rita Skeeter and Hagrid, and Luke Youngblood returns to the role of Lee Jordan. There's some extras like skins, and PS1 Hagrid is back. Does this mean Harry Potter on PS1 exists in canon now? I beat the World Cup on the hardest difficulty and enjoyed some good games online. It's a little harder to find matches now, but I'll keep trying.
And that's it for now.
Who knows what the future holds for Harry Potter gaming? Hopefully we'll see a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, and maybe they'll look back at the old games for inspiration. I hope they recapture the sense of wonder from the early games, being inside the castle for the very first time, the attention to detail from the Order of the Phoenix, the way the world around you changes as the story progresses, the additional world building of the Half-Blood Prince and the Quidditch World Cup. Everyone has a name and their own personality. The mystery of the Book of Spells and the intricacies of the Book of Potions, and maybe even evoke the emotions like the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Not asking for much, eh?
Thank you for watching. Tell me which Harry Potter game is your favourite in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Class dismissed.